What's up, guys? We're back here today with another episode of Goblin Slayer.
Yes.
Episode 10 specifically. And in this one, nothing happens. See you later, Addicts.
Yeah.
No, so in this one, really nothing happens, though. They return to the village. They get resupplied. They get re-armored. You have kind of the closing of the Sword... Sword Maiden? That's her name?
Yeah.
Sword Maiden arc, where she sends a letter saying, like, hey, I don't have nightmares anymore. And
Thanks
Goblin
to
Slayer's
you.
like, okay. And then, in addition to that, you have random heroes who become platinum adventurers because they defeated the demon.
The 10th in the world.
10th of all time. And in addition, you have...
Bunch of new characters that we'll never see again.
New characters that kind of matter. We have Witch make an appearance. We have Spearman. We have Warrior and, I don't know, female warrior, female knight,
Female
heavy
knight,
warrior. I don't know.
Holy something.
They're like training newcomers who we saw previous episodes in the sewers, trying to get them strong enough to face goblins. And then you have kind of the overtones of the episode is what's going to happen in Goblin Slayer's future when he can no longer see goblins, or whenever he gets older. And then in addition,
Some backstory.
There are some backstory in there, and then we also get a little bit of like, hey, if you get injured again, you're gonna have to. You can't adventure for 6 months if he gets like severely injured. So. You have all the cast of characters that we've followed throughout the show. Guild Girl makes an appearance as well.
She gets to hang out with them.
Yeah, hang out with them. Pretty much all the characters that we've seen get to hang out and eat dinner together, and there's a drinking contest and some gambling. But besides that, that's all that happens. And again, the major theme is what Goblin Slayer is going to do for the future, what happens when he can't slay goblins, and... we get some foreboding as there being a large amount of goblins at the very end approaching, but...
Yeah, and seemingly close to where the farm is. So...
Looks like the next couple episodes will take place at the farm, in regards to how, like, what's going to happen with the enemies and the characters. We'll have to see.
I think for me, this episode is more of just... not so much a filler. I mean, it is technically a filler because we don't really get any... important info that happens. I think it's mainly a kind of like one last, like if you will, comic relief, and maybe just tying up some of the other arcs that we've seen throughout the season before we get to the the final fight per se. And so I mean, like Michael's been probably all gone through everything. There's not much that happens. I can't say. I don't know if this is the worst episode of the season, and take worst lightly because it's not a bad episode per se. It's just that we don't get a lot shown, but it's definitely one that felt like maybe the least satisfactory. So not much to go on. What do you think?
So one of the things that sets this show apart from Slime, I guess, is the episode length. So you only have 12 or 13, I think it's 13 episodes for Goblin Slayer. And in that many, in that little amount of episodes, I don't know if it was just the planning or how they decided to take all the episodes together. I think it would have been better if they would have split apart the filler parts of this episode, although like mini, not even like mini arcs, but, closing up all the loose ends on certain arcs. They would have done that in previous episodes or in other episodes.
Or just maybe even cut some stuff.
Yeah,
or
cut
put
some
it
stuff.
in between.
Because I feel like the main attempt of this, besides, what's going to happen in Goblin Slayer's future, is trying to provide character development for characters that are going to be in danger or die here pretty soon. But I feel like with the level of character depth that we've gotten so far, besides the main party... I don't think it's going to change anything if they die or when they die or, if they struggle and become a team. I'll still not really be connected to those characters, even with this episode.
Yeah, because I don't think... To me, it just doesn't seem like Goblin Slayer is that kind of series where you really get heavily invested in, all the characters that are shown. Or, even, I would say, the main cast, there is some that you have your favorites or you're more attached to than others. But really, at the core of it, I think there's only maybe two characters that they're really wanting you to feel for, because maybe Goblins, like, definitely Goblin Slayer, and then like maybe Priestess are like the only two that I would say that they're like, yeah, these are like solidly going to be throughout the entire show. The rest are kind of like, I feel like it's one of those shows where, they make it to where almost everybody's expendable, and they bring them on, and you get attached to them for a short amount of time, but they're not meant to be there the whole time. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of the vibe I got. Don't know. You would know more. Speaking of that, there's a lot of changes to the books. Switching, like you were saying, switching arcs or just cutting out stuff in general. Do you think that's been an aid or in?
I mean, I think Goblin Slayer in general is hard to adapt into an anime because the show and the gimmick of the show in some ways doesn't have the strongest direction or kind of storytelling. So, like, for example, it has some story limitations with how they've designed the characters. So an example of this would be like One Punch Man. You have a show that's an action show, but you have a limitation where whenever he meets an enemy, the enemy's going to die. So the show's kind of built around that, and I feel like the nonchalant nature of, there's a demon lord and stuff happens, but that doesn't really matter. I feel like they didn't build the show around that narrative of it being like, all these things don't matter, just kill goblins. Mm-hmm. I feel like they tried to make it, halfway,
try to have it both ways.
Try to have it both ways in some ways. It would have been like in One Punch Man, for example, if he would have struggled against like 3, 4, 5, 6, then it would have been like, well, is he the strongest hero? Is he One Punch Man or is he not? I feel like at this point it does have some identity problems in regards to what kind of show it is. And keeping all that in mind, I still do like the show. I still like some of the elements, the characters, the fights, the animations for the most part during those action fights. And
I think for me, it's a show that I have been enjoying, and I do like the tones that they touch and spread kind of the comedy and the mix of that. But I think like Michael said, there's some things where they try to highlight a lot of different parts, and it works okay, or you don't really, see the full negative side of it when they have other stuff going on, like they're killing goblins or they're trying to figure out stuff. But when we have episodes like this, I think it really just kind of shows kind of how weak some of their progression is with some characters. Because we have moments that we appreciate with all the characters, with the cheese gag or the
drinking gag,
or like the arguing amongst the adventures and stuff like that. But if you really look at their characters, they're not as well developed as other shows, and it's not and I don't think Goblin Slayer is a series where it's supposed to be like that, because it is just killing goblins. But I think with that being said, with that being the main focus, when you don't have goblins, it kind of defeats the purpose of like why you have this episode, or and it could be just the way they did it. But so this episode, I'd say I'm just kind of taking it or leaving it. It's like one that you could skip really, because the stuff that we did get new, I don't think is really going to matter. Because with the Sword Maiden, it was cool getting like a closing with her, but we already kind of got a face-to-face closing in the last episode, so it was kind of like one of those things like, cool, but didn't need it. The goblin thing at the very end of this episode, I'm sure they're going to recap that or retell it in a different way in the next episode. So again, not really something you need to see here. And it's like the other stuff, seeing the heroes and everything. I guess it's cool in a sense to see like the world building and the fact that he's like he used to, like, he wanted to be there, but not really. But still, that's not where it's going for. He's never going to do that, or he's never going to be at that part. So there's really no point to highlight that. So, again, not really one that you have to watch.
Yeah, still looking forward to the final arc. Don't want to end on too much of a negative point, but it's still going to be excited to see how he kills the goblin at the end. And I think the finale is set up pretty well. So I guess we'll just have to see.
Yep, there was a lot of fun stuff in this episode, though, in terms of like the reactions on doing the different things, and I think that's gonna, like I said, just a lighthearted thing to give us before there's like tragedy and despair throughout the whole party.
Pretty much.
But yeah, I guess that's just where we stand. Sorry if we seem tired. We really are. And this is at night, and you can tell it's the day after. But this is coming up Well, I mean, it's
Yeah,
coming
when
up
it comes
right
out.
after it comes. Really right after we do this. So, stay tuned for next week. We're going to be back for Goblin Slayer. We only have, we think, 2 episodes, maybe 3, depending on if it's 12 or 13. And then you can check us back for Slime because we're doing that as well. And going into the next season, I'm pretty sure we'll have maybe 1 or 2 shows.
Yeah, we'll
that
do
we're
an
gonna
announcement
episode.
video for that, for what shows we're going to do. So.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that because that's coming up. And, every other thing that we have, you can go check out in the works and in the description. So we'll see you guys later. Peace, Addicts.